Hello, we're reading from Kabbalah for the Student, the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah, page 590. It is in item 47, in the middle of it. Again, Kabbalah for the Student, page 590, I guess. Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah, item 47, beginning on page 590. Thus we have explained in the middle of the page 590, Kabbalah for the Student.
All right, we learned with you that the upper light created desire, and the desire wanted to resemble the upper light. That's why he created a desire as well. The upper light is called keter or shoresh root. The discernment he created is called pchina aleph or chokhmah. Then comes pchina bet, the second phase, bina, which builds the third phase, pchina gimel or zeranpin. And then we have malchut, a special pchina, the fourth phase, malchut. The difference between them, we have learned that the upper light is entirely bestowing. Chokhmah is entirely reception, but not of itself, rather because the light created it this way. Bina once again wants bestowal. Zeranpin, because she builds him, then he too is in reception, but again, it's not reception of his own because Bina has created him. Meaning, Keter and Chokhmah resemble Bina and Zeranpin. And then comes Malchut. Malchut is really the will to receive. A will to receive, grand. In its end, it feels shame. Shame. And then, out of the shame, he reaches restriction. He doesn't want to receive because the pleasure he feels he's the one pulling this pleasure. And by that, he differs from the root, from Keter. And then he thinks that by the action called masach and or chozer, screen and reflected light, he may reach a state of resemblance, resembling himself to the Keter, to the Creator. And so this is how it's made, and then his entire reception is entirely in order to bestow. Because if he receives, he's the created being. That's how he's created. He has no other choice. He's receiving. But if he does it in order to bestow, it turns out that he resembles to the Creator, to the upper. So he examines what the upper wants from him, and this examination is in the part of him called Rosh. Rosh. Previously there was no Rosh, only now. We can even write here, Rosh equals a decision, thought. It wasn't there previously. The thought is prior to the desire. And it's the first time. And by that, this creature is called a created being, because there is something of his own there. The Rosh. The Rosh determines the independence. By that, he resembles the Creator. The decision, the thought, the intention, all the rest of the created beings are called Adam, or humans. Adam is from the word Adameh, resembling the Creator in his thoughts, in his plans, in his Rosh. If someone has no such thoughts or plans, he's not called Adam, or human beings. There's a verse, they're all like beasts. So he decides how much he can receive in order to bestow. Only a small part. He receives it within the desire. Meaning here, above is thought, Machshava, thought. And here, below, it is Ratzon, desire. Already. Desire. And then he fills this desire with light. It is called Opnimi, inner light. And there is a part he cannot fill with his desire. It has no force to fulfill it for the sake of the host. And so here there is rejection, and this place remains empty. We have learned this, right? So we have Rosh, Toch, and Sof. Right? Were the Partzuf to fulfill itself completely, all the way, until the Sof, then we would complete the correction all the way, all together. He would complete the correction. He would receive, in order to bestow, the entire light of Ein Sof within that, all that desire that was created by the light. But he's incapable of doing that. Only part of it. Meaning, the nature of the will to receive that has been created is that he cannot resemble the light by the action of the light over himself. Meaning, the light leaves the desire in a very special way. That doesn't give the complete correction to the desire. And the difference between what the light may correct or give correction and what it cannot correct is that the created being remains without a correction, even if it's by the reforming light. Later on, it brings about the matter of the klipot, by which we feel ourselves the opposite of the Creator. And thanks to them, thanks to the klipot, we have existence of our own, and we can resemble Him later on and stand against Him. And then we can reach dvekut, adhesion. Adhesion is always in two qualities, reception and bestowal. And these two qualities reach equivalence. We'll speak of it later. So what is he saying in item 47?
From the beginning of it? Should we read from the beginning or?
Yes.
17. Okay. It has been explained, item 47 on page 589.
Meaning there's the matter here that the surplus of light that he did not receive as inner light, as opnimi, he wants to bestow and enter the Partzuf. This is called Or Mekif, surrounding light. This here is Or Yashar, direct light. This Or Yashar that comes divides into Or Pnimi and Or Mekif. Or Mekif, surrounding light, is the surplus that should have fulfilled the Sof of the Partzuf, but there was no room for it. Yes?
It has been explained that through the bitush, the bidding of Or Makif, surrounding light, in the masach of the guf, it purifies the masach of all the aviyut of the guf, until it is purified and equalized as with the Masach of the Peh of the Rosh.
Meaning over here, in the place, this place, the bitush was made. Bitush. Bitush means beating of the light, the masachim, the screens together, but nevertheless they don't let this or mekif to burst inside into this desire in the siyum of the patzuf. They don't let it enter, and then out of no choice the patzuf starts departing from the reception of light, returning to the previous state before he received.
The equivalence of form with the Peh of Rosh unites them as one, and it is included in the Zivug de Haka'ah in it.
Meaning that same Masach that now stands in the Tabur rises back to Peh de Rosh and equalizes with Peh de Rosh, meaning receives nothing. When he was in Tabur, he used to receive the Or Pnimi, but as he rose, he received nothing, closed up himself. Yes?
However, the Masach is not purified at once, but gradually. First, from Bechina Daled to Bechina Gimel, then from Bechina Gimel to Bechina Bet, then from Bechina Bet to Bechina Aleph, and then from Bechina Aleph to Bechinat Shoresh. Finally, it is purified from all of its oviyut and becomes as pure as the Masach of Peh of Rosh.
Let's do it in a more specific way. We have Rosh, Toch, and Sof, and the Masach. The screen came down from the Rosh to the Tabur, and now it rises back. This here is Peh de Rosh. Here Zivug de Haka'ah was performed. Here a bitush was performed, the point of the Tabur. And then the Masach rises. The Masach rises to Peh de Rosh. Back. And it rises with Bechina Daled, Gimel, Bet, Aleph, and Shoresh. That's how he rises back. Daled, Gimel, Bet, Aleph, and Root, Shoresh. Gradually. Just as he descended, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled. That's how it descended previously. Now it rises this way. Why is he explaining this to us? Because every time he rises, he is performing in these points, in these points of connection, additional zivugim daka, more and more and more and more. He's trying to tell us, I don't want to receive according to the Bechina Daled, Bechina Gimel, Bechina Bet, Bechina Aleph, and Shoresh in me. Just as he decided in Peh de Rosh to receive Or Yashar inside, so that there will be Or Pnimi, now it has to remove himself from that, from each and every portion. And therefore, the ascent from Tabur to Peh is gradual, a gradual ascent. There are many actions here. Why are they important for us? Because specifically by departing myself from something, parting from something that was very tasteful, and by that I was in dvekut, adhesion. By the fact that I now depart from it, I start appreciating, feeling, tasting once again, by leaving it, how important it was for me, how many flavors were in it, in the reception in order to bestow these lights, and the reshimot that remain from this entire process. From this process I have reshimot. They are basically the main reshimot over which I later build the next parzuf. The next parzuf. Specifically out of that. Because the expansion of the light itself is called te'amim, flavors. The departure of lights, departure of the light itself, is called nekudot. Reshimot from the te'amim are called tagin. Reshimot of the nekudot are called otiyot, letters. Otiyot or kelim, vessels. Now it turns out that precisely these points of departure are the most important because they are the letters. Otiyot, these are the clear vessels, complete vessels over which the next parzuf will emerge. And every time the previous scrutiny, the final one must end this way, and then it comes, the next parzuf comes. I cannot reach the next scrutiny until I complete the previous one. Continue.
We're reading on page 589. Now the upper light does not stop shining for even a moment, and it couples with the masach at every stage of its hizdakchut, purification. This is because once it has been purified of bchina daled, and the level of keter has been entirely removed, and the masach came to oviyut of bchina gimel, the upper light mates with the masach on the remaining oviyut of bchina gimel, and produces 10 sfirot at the level of Chokhmah. Afterwards, when the Masach departs from Bechina Gimel 2, and the level of Chokhmah departs, leaving only Bechina Bet in the Masach, the upper light mates with it on Bechina Bet, and produces 10 sfirot at the level of Binah. Then, when it has been purified of Bchina Bet too, and this level has departed, leaving only oviyut of Bechina Aleph in it, the upper light mates with the Masach on the remaining oviyut of Bechina Aleph, and produces 10 sfirot at the level of Zeranpin. And when it has been purified of oviyut of Bechina Aleph too, and the level of Zeranpin has departed, it remains only with the Shoresh, root of the oviyut. In that state, the upper light makes a zivug on oviyut Shoresh that remains on the Masach and produces 10 sfirot at the level of Malchut. And when the level of the Masach is purified of oviyut Shoresh also, the level of Malchut departs thence too, since no oviyut of Guf remains there. In that state, it is considered that the Masach and its Reshimot rose and united with the Masach of Rosh, became included there in a zivug of Haka'ah there, and produced 10 sfirot over it, called a child and a consequence of the first parzuf. Thus, we have explained that the bitush, beating of Or Makif and Or Pnimi, that purified the Masach of Guf of the first parzuf of Ak, and elevates it to its Peh Rosh, by which the second parzuf, Ab of Ak, emerges, is not done at once. Rather, it occurs gradually. As the upper light mates with it, at each state in the 4 degrees it traverses during its hizdakchut, until it equalizes with the Peh Rosh. And as it has been explained regarding the elicitation of the four levels during the hizakut of the guf of the first partzuf for Ab's purpose, 3 levels emerge during the hizdakut of the masach of guf of partzuf Ab as it emanates partzuf Sag, and similarly in all the degrees. The rule is this: a masach does not purify at once, but gradually. And the upper light, which does not stop spreading to the lower one, mates with it at each degree along its purification.
Questions? Yes, please.
Good morning. According to the drawing, how can we feel the entry of the light and its departure under what condition? In the group, let's say. Can each one feel it at that moment? Or is it according to, I don't know how to say it even?
This is a question. You hear it. Jerusalem guy. You shouldn't ask like someone from Jerusalem. He's asking in a good way. Are we feeling the ta'amim and nekudot individually or in a common way, in a group, as a group? Both. Both. But always with adhesion to the group as the source of the lights. The group later on is the same kli, but each one participates individually.
This is on condition that the connection is already on some level, or I don't know how to say.
Prior to the connection, there's nothing to talk about.
Connection on what level? What kind of dvekut can we feel? Can we know?
How can I tell you in what extent of adhesion?
In the beginning, the middle of the way, or at least in general.
If we nullify, even if we nullify all of us together to the group, to the concept of the kli, where we want to be as an embryo cleaved onto the Creator, we already start feeling His actions over us. We are connected already to Ima. And then we feel these actions. However, in a way that I cannot determine a single thing by that. I can't pass it on. Simply feeling movements, but once again, this is all only in connection with the upper, and connection with the upper is first the group. More questions? Well, all right.
On the first column in item 47, in the second part, he says, later on when the Masach is purified from Bechina Gimel, it departs from a level of Chochmah and only Bechina Bet remains in the Masach. Well, earlier we said that Chochmah is Bechina Aleph, the first phase, in the beginning, Chochmah, Bina, etc. And here he says that Chochmah ends up being Bechina Gimel. So how does it work?
Well, that's according to the degrees of aviut, coarseness.
Yeah, I'm talking about the degrees of aviut, coarseness, thickness.
The degree of aviut, the third degree of aviut is chokhmah.
So why is it going in the opposite way now?
It's the inverse value of lights and vessels. Gimel is attaining chokhmah and Dalet is keter.
So the order of the ascent and the order of the ascent is the same?
Opposite.
Why opposite? Chokhmah down below goes up to Bina. Then even when it goes down, it's the same.
If I get rid of the fourth degree of aviut, listen up everyone. If I get rid of the fourth degree of aviut over here in the kli, Right? So what light emerges then? From what light do I also get rid of? The light of Yechidah. Look at this youngster. He knows it and you don't. Now later on, if I get rid of the third degree of Aviyut, the light of Chaya, meaning this, the fourth degree, is connected to Keter. The third degree is connected to Chokhmah. Second degree is connected to Binah. Aleph, first degree to Zeranpin, and Shoresh, root to Malchut. And vice versa. Depends what you're talking about. Either, this is called the inverse value of the lights and vessels. Of what perspective are you talking? From the lights or the vessel?
I have another question about that. Can I?
If it's about
the drawing. I have other questions, but
I'm sure you do. I'll tell you even more. I'm not disrespecting that. You see how Bala Sulam, everywhere he repeats the inverse relation between the lights and vessels because it's a general confusion. This is his great revelation of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Truly. Previously, before him, they couldn't discern this. They couldn't distinguish. And after he discovered it and interpreted it, it really became clear to everyone what's going on because they saw opposite phenomena. It's like in physics, they saw suddenly the light is waves or particles. So you're saying, no, both. What do you mean both? With all these paradoxes that are unfolding. So it's the same here.
No, I want to explain what else I don't know.
Well,
the ta'amim, the flavors, and the tagim, all of this state of descent of the inner light.
It's not a descent.
Revelation.
It's reception of light.
Okay, so he's there receiving in order to bestow, which is a good state.
Of course, it's adhesion.
Yes, dvekut.
Here, within the Potzuf, this is dvekut. True adhesion.
So what reason does he have to restrict that state?
I've reached 10% of adhesion in the Creator, and 90%, no, not yet. I cannot be in dvekut with the Creator. So am I self-fulfilled? No. Did I reach the purpose of creation? No. Am I giving pleasure to the host? No. What turns out? That I'm maintaining my self-respect. That I want to be like him because of my pride. That was because of shame, now it's because of pride. Will I stay this way? Is it possible? So he has no choice, so he's purifying. By that, we'll move on to the next part.
And before that, let's sing together.
שתתאמץ וגם תמצא מה שחבוי בתוכך, שתלמד רק לאהוב ותזהה את כל הטוב, שתגלה עמוק בפנים פירות יפים ומתוקים, ותקלף את הקליפות גם אגוזים קשים, שתמצא את התשובה לשאלות שבלבך ותרגיש שמסביבך אוהבים אותך, אוהבים אותך, שתצוף בין השברים בים סוער על הגלים, ותעוף לעננים מעל הרים של שינויים, שתמצא את התשובה לשאלות שבלבך ותרגיש שמסביבך כולם אוהבים אותך, אוהבים אותך, אוהבים אותך, אוהבים אותך.
תהיה שלם במקום שעוטף אותך, ותשבור את החומות שחוקות את נשמתך, שתמצא את התשובה לשאלות שבלבך, ותרגיש שמסביבך